Foss. Big welcome to the Foss, friends of Strictly Sega. You know who you are. Anyway, so, what are we doing here? Well, I've got a little story to fill you in on. We've been doing an episode, as you know, Chase HQ, which has taken a little bit longer than usual, almost 6 weeks to produce. Getting together the whole group and filming and editing and scripting and all that process takes a long time. So we decided to do a little weekly show. A little something like just me, you know, talking to you guys about my latest pickups I've scored from the Dreamcast to the Saturn. I'm still buying Mega CD games occasionally, but mostly on the Dreamcast and Saturn. This episode, in particular, we're going to go into a game called Rez, which has been released lately on the Xbox Live Arcade, which is kick-ass. And, what else? It's been released on the PlayStation 2 in America. It never got released on the Dreamcast in America. It got released over here in Europe and in Japan, of course. Great game. Great game. Check it out. Now.
Back when I first saw The Matrix, it made hairs on my neck stand up. I don't think I've ever had quite the movie experience like it, before or since. It kept me thinking about the story and the theories long after it ended its run at the cinema, as I patiently waited for the next 2 movies to come out. Looking back now, I believe what excited me the most was how the movie challenged my imagination, like no other movie before had. I couldn't tell you how many times I wondered what it would be like to have information uploaded directly into my brain, to be plugged in and instantly be in another realm. Well, after 2 sort of disappointing sequels, my mind eventually put that thought to bed. Until that is, I finally got a copy of a game that I have wanted to get my hands on since I have heard of it. That game is Rez. Playing this game is just amazing. More to the point, upon finishing this game, it feels like literally coming out of another world and back into the room where you started in. Somehow, this one game managed to stand out of a crowd as a special game with something different. But before I got it, I wouldn't have been able to tell you for the life of me why it was the case. I could just feel it. Being someone who is somewhat passionate against emulation, or more to the point, taking advantage of the lack of security on the Dreamcast, it took me nearly 6 months to get my hands on a copy of this game, but luckily I was enough to pick it up for 40 Australian dollars. Talk about a bargain. Now, Rez is a rail shooter, very similar to Panzer Dragoon series, which is fair enough as United Game Artists, the developers of this game, are made up of several members of Team Andromeda, who are well known for developing the original Panzer Dragoon series. Just like the series, when you approach multiple targets, you are able to hold down the shooting button while selecting targets to let all the shots fly upon release. Instead of gunshots through the game, sound produces little taps and tinks that play along to the time of the main track that's mixed in with the vibrations, causing a real state of Synthesia. Now, there are multiple types of Synthesia. The most common usage is to describe those people that can see colours in words and numbers, where there are none, or can see dates or numbers right in front of them in a third dimension. What it is, it's a communication problem between the senses that makes these people receive mixed messages. Like one message is leaking into the other, for instance to see what someone says or to hear what someone writes. There are over 60 types of Synthesia, but in this case, as in Rez, it's a visual motion to sound Synthesia, so that means hearing sounds in response to a visual motion and flicker. So when you're bombarded with all this light, sound and vibration, it really makes you feel you're in the middle of that world as you fly along the computer network taking out firewalls and viruses. Well, hang on, maybe I better give you a little taste of the storyline first, eh? So the game takes place inside a futuristic network known as the K Project. Now, this super network data flow is controlled by Eden, a form of artificial intelligence. Now, poor old Eden has realised its place in the world and is having doubts about its existence, so it's trying to shut down the computer. Now, being a world that relies on this super network, it would be a very bad thing if this was shut down. So you, a hacker, is sent in to try and reboot Eden while shooting down viruses and taking down firewalls as you move from network to network. The gameplay, although quite simplistic, contains lots of depth. You can really immerse yourself in the graphics, music, and the vibrating magic. It's the depth that can be the main draw of this game, but it can also be what scares most people off. One thing that makes the game hard, if you ask me, is the exchange of a life bar with how you change form when you hit, with the base being this plain sphere. I mean, I could babble on this game for ages, but what it comes down to is this game is more than just an experience. I mean, it's not for everyone, but if you sit down and take it with an open mind, then I'm sure you'll be blown away.
So that was Rez. What a great game it is too, huh? I mean, I really love that phase. I've always loved experimental things. Like during the 60s and the 70s, there was a whole big phase of film that went on where everyone was experimenting with film, you know. During the 60s and 70s also, there was a whole big experimental phase with music. People were, you know, Jimi Hendrix was experimenting with sounds that had never been made with a guitar before and stuff like that. And in turn, during the late 90s, early 2000s, a lot of people were experimenting with computer games and graphics and stuff like that. And I think Rez is one of the best examples of that. Anyway, but to play that game to its best capability, you're going to need one of these. It's called a Dreamcast VGA box. Now this is a more advanced one. It has the ability to switch either between S-Video and Composite or VGA. Now what does it do exactly? In Australia, we have a frame rate that is pretty much limited to 24 frames a second, which isn't bad, but it could be better. So this is good for that. Also, it improves colours, it improves resolution, all by just a fraction, but you know, that fraction is all you need just to really get the Dreamcast going to its full capabilities, if you ask me. Firstly, or by the way, excuse the washing, it's actually washing day for me too here. So that's pretty much all we've got to cover here. One last thing is check out next week because we're covering Dave Mirra BMX, which is one of my favourite games of all time. I used to love this game on the Xbox. We had this on the Xbox. I never actually had the Dreamcast version originally. But when I found it on the Dreamcast, oh, let me tell you, I was over the moon. And I'd love to show you guys that next week. So stick around and check out Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX next week. Till then, take care, and I'll see you then. Bye. I go to lean towards the mouse to press the stop button, and it's over here on the back of the camera.